love when you wear costumes, Dan. We love when you match the character you're doing the evolution of, Dan. Well, I didn't think it would come to this. I didn't think that when I remastered Minnie Mouse, I would be wearing a Minnie Mouse dress, but here I am, I guess. It's called commitment to the bit, all right? You start a bit, you stick to it, all right? Be a hero. Like me. It's Mini Dan here to give you the full history of Minnie Mouse costumes, both in and out of theme parks. And let me tell you something, she's an icon. So you're gonna wanna stick around because there's some crazy looks coming your way. Disney's iconic flapper girl, Minnie Mouse, born all the way back in 1928. She was everything. She was an icon, complete with her short skirt, patch knickers, white gloves. I love Minnie Mouse. She was a wild and crazy gal and sort of represented all that youthful female energy of the time. Just as Mickey Mouse served as like the everyman representing all the guys out there working hard and scraping by, Minnie Mouse in a lot of ways also represents the common woman. And as the culture moved out of the flapper craze and into a more demure conservative era, Minnie followed suit, serving as a perfect companion to Mickey Mouse and all of his crazy friends, a role she still serves today. And what I love more than anything about Minnie Mouse is that she was conceived at the exact same time as Mickey Mouse. In fact, if you look at the Ub Iwerks original one-sheet where he drew up all different types of Mickeys for Walt's approval, not all of them are boys, one of them's a gal. Right there she is, Minnie Mouse, right from the start, always there, getting her good pal Mickey's back, you know? That gorgeous little wife of his, always been following him since day one. The early days of Disney costumes came in part thanks to the vaudeville scene that was playing with as much success in the small local theaters as the iconic Mickey Mouse shorts. A pair named Fanchon and Marco acquired the rights to produce their own companion live-action show that would accompany the popular Mickey shorts in theaters. They even constructed several outfits, including Minnie, to hit the stage in fun physical comedy numbers. The oversized gloves are quite the sight up against the human-sized shoes, but the larger-than-life face is perfect. I love it. It just looks so good. It's essentially just the same costume for both mice. You know, Mickey and Minnie's heads, they look pretty identical, just one's in a dress. That's pretty much it. And let me tell you something right now. This is a trend you're gonna see quite often in this video. They'll build a Mickey Mouse costume, then they'll make a second one and put lipstick and eyelashes on it. It's just something they do. I don't know. They look identical. I don't know what you want me to tell you. The 1937 premiere of Walt's first feature-length animated film, Snow White, gave us a peek into the future of Disney's immersive storytelling capabilities. Because who shows up at the red carpet? None other than Mickey and Minnie themselves. Look at these two weirdos, they're perfect. The costume is essentially the pattern for the popular Mickey and Minnie plush toys at the time, just exploded in size to fit a human inside. And while the pair looks nearly identical, you can spot eyelashes on Minnie, she's got her dress, she's even got her little flower pot hat, so I love it. I have to imagine this was truly a sight to be seen for kids. Having a cute Mickey and Minnie walking around on the red carpet with, like Shirley Temple and all the seven dwarves. This was very cool. This was very, very cool, Disney. As we move into the 1940s, Minnie started to change her look into something a bit more conservative than we previously saw. She started wearing oversized bows, big old shoes, a big bow in her hair, and a cute little dress with bloomers. This is a little bit of a change, and Minnie's first appearance after her cartoon redesign was the iconic 1949 Ice Capades. Oh yeah, that's right, we're getting right to the crazy ice stuff at the top of the video. A partnership that would lead to one of the longest running Disney live shows, Disney on Ice. This was an early promotional tool that allowed Walt to tour his characters around the country at highly attended live shows without having to do much work on his end to make it happen. Ah, the sweet, sweet licensing deal. These costumes were articulated, believe it or not, with small strings hanging from the spring-loaded jaws that let the performers tug them open and close with tracks as they skated around. The costume in its early days was cute. You can see, look at all these really cute photos. Even Walt visited on the ice. But years later, it would become an unforgettable icon of terror. Oh boy, I guess the day comes for all of us when we see something truly traumatic as a child and lose our innocence. And for all the children of Southern California, that day happened in 1955 when Disneyland opened. Walt, likely overwhelmed and overworked, seemingly forgot that he needed costume characters for his park's opening. So he phoned up the Ice Capades, who had a whole whole lineup of Disney characters, everyone from Dumbo to Mickey, and called them in. He's like, come on down, guys, I need some characters here. We're televising this thing. These costumes were several years deep into their use by the skaters. They had been significantly modified and chopped up to help with the visibility and airflow for the performers inside. And the once mostly smooth faces of these characters, these childhood beloved characters, had turned into nightmare fuel. Hollowed out eyes, scarred faces, chunks of mouse flesh just missing from their gaunt, hollow, terrifying faces. They televised these two, they put them on TV. And even more bizarrely are things like their shoe coverings, which were designed for skates, but were kind of like bunched up over just plain old black flats. This is just truly an era. This was truly a decision, was truly an era. My, oh my. Oh, boy, I think about these terrifying costumes at least once a week. They haunt my memories consistently. Now, luckily, this Mickey and Minnie horror show didn't stick around long, and in 1958, the costumes were rebuilt. Fresh-faced costumes, specifically made for the parks by the Ice Capades, because they are the Ice Capades designs, just without all the torn-up faces. And it was just in time for the opening of the Alice in Wonderland ride at Disneyland, so we get these really great shots of Walt with Minnie and Mickey hanging out up front, and Minnie, you know, she definitely got a facelift. She's got these big bushy eyelashes, big thick lips, you know, big thick gloves, and even a bow on her chest. So, you know, there you go. They did a little tweakage. They cleaned her up a little bit and made her look better. Thank goodness, because yikes, that was rough when Disneyland first opened. And not that this is any better, but it is sorta a little bit, like, you know, just like a hair. Just a year later, in 1959, Disneyland's first in-house attempt was made to make costumes. The new Minnie Mouse head sculpt is the earliest form of the traditional head that we have today. That bright, plasticized face, painted and detailed in a really wonderful way. The head of the body is quite large compared to the performer. Like, there were no padding here. This was just a performer essentially wearing black tights over their body. It's just a fairly simple mini dress stuck on top. We have to continue with the trend of an oversized mini bow on her head, plus a big bow crop top, her bloomers stretched down below the knee. This was like a new Minnie. This is a fashionable Minnie. This is a completely different era. The biggest misstep here is quite honestly just the giant head versus the tiny body. It's just that the proportions really just don't line up. And you can really tell that Disney was aware of that. They were really aware that they had to make some kind of drastic change to the way that Mickey and Minnie interacted with guests in the parks. But how are they going to do that? They had to go back to the drawing board and think up something new, something smaller yet bigger. What could it be? Ah, yes. The Summer of Fun, 1961. The birth of the Disneyland Big Heads. Some of my favorite costumes in the history of Disney costumes. Dozens of these big heads were made for all types of characters, including Minnie Mouse. Now, the logic here is pretty sound, and I can't really fault Disney for thinking this way, so let's sort of break down how these costumes worked. By taking the character's face and moving it down onto the torso of the performer, it really allowed Mickey and Minnie to sort of look directly at kids instead of the head being so high up on top of a pair of adult shoulders. The cast member's head was tucked very cleverly inside of a hat on the character. So all of these characters that are big heads technically have to have a hat so that the performer has someplace to put their head. This costume design did not last long, and mostly because families complained at length that the characters were just too static. Their kids couldn't hug Mickey and have Mickey hug back. Minnie would just like wiggle her arms around holding her little parasol, and there really wasn't a lot of interactivity between these characters and kids. So they scrapped these big heads very, very shortly after they released them, and we moved on to something brand new. An all-new Minnie Mouse sculpt was brought to the parks in 1963, bringing the classic Minnie and Mickey looks back to the era. This beautiful mascot head is sort of the foundation that will be tweaked and tweaked and tweaked to end up being the modern head that we're familiar with today. And you can kind of see all of the signs there, from the big rubber nose, the very demure little eyelashes, the little eyeliner for the eyebrows. I certainly have a soft spot in my head I certainly have a soft spot in my heart for that big head design that they got rid of, but this is so much better. It was also in this time that Walt started leaning heavily on Paul Castle, an ice skating performer of short stature, to play Mickey Mouse, and they followed suit with Minnie, finding another short female ice skater to play Minnie Mouse to sort of bring the characters down as low as they could. Minnie's head, Mickey's head, they're much closer down to where the kids are thanks to short performers inside. Now, as a lot of you know, all of the classic characters got completely remodeled for the opening of Walt Disney World in 1971, and Minnie, of course, was first in line. This is the first time we see Minnie Mouse in a complete one-piece dress. Up until this point, she's been wearing bloomers and skirts and collars. No more. Now Minnie is in full dress form. And I love this new look. I love the way we're going with this. The plain, simple yellow Minnie outfit with a strong red accent. There isn't just a bow stuck on her head. There's a strap, a red strap that goes down around the side of her head. She has a nice little bow belt, little red accents on the end of her sleeves. Just look at the head sculpt on this Minnie Mouse with the bright rosy cheeks, the more defined eyes, nose, cleaner lips. Just everything about this design is just hitting it for me. I really reminisce about the early 1970s Minnie and Mickey because they were just so iconic and classic and just something unlike anything else. Now here's one of my favorite tidbits about that Minnie Mouse dress from '71. Minnie and Mickey and the whole gang of Disney characters were featured in a fun little animatronic show called Mickey Mouse Review. And in that show, you could find Minnie wearing the same outfit on her little tiny animatronic as you could wandering around Main Street that you just saw, hugged, and got a picture with. That's a nice little bit of immersive storytelling that is maybe the first instance of it of the park where you have an animatronic and a character dressed the same in the park at the same time. That was an original costume. I'm not talking like Snow White or, Pinocchio or anything like that. This is a Minnie Mouse outfit designed for her character in the parks and then also designed for animatronic. I think that's pretty cool. Now, as we approach the 1980s, Mickey Mouse celebrated his 50th birthday, and with that, an entirely new remodeled costume design was put out there for Mickey and Minnie, and wow, man, welcome to the 80s is all I can say. As we push towards the animated realism, we brightened up Minnie's face design. She's practically pale white, like she was painted with cartoon ink, adding a bright texture of black fur. It's no longer like a smooth black area. Now the fur black, area of her mousiness is furry. It has like a little bit of a pile to it. She's got thicker eyelashes. Look at all the eyelashes they pumped on this costume. My gosh, the more eyelashes, the better. And a strong, bold makeup. She's got like a smoky blue eye. She's got big old bold shiny red lips. This, it feels like a trashy soap opera Minnie Mouse to me when I think about it a little bit. And this costume, more than any other costume on this list, truly feels like Mickey Mouse in drag. I mean, like it just feels like Mickey Mouse stumbled into a little bit of makeup and glued on some eyelashes, and he was off to go as his alternate ego, Minnie Mouse. I love this costume. I love this, and this is when we started experimenting with the characters getting other fits, not just their cartoon fits. And so, you get things like the iconic Epcot costumes, for one good example, that just make the Minnie Mouse costume shine and accessorize it. I love what they ended up doing with Minnie in the 80s, even though she looks so trashy. It's a trashy Minnie, but hey, we all have our trashy eras. It happens to all of us. Happens to the best of us. When Mickey Mouse turned 60, the park celebrated in 1987 with, that's right, a brand new Mickey and Minnie costume. Yeah, why not? Every 10 years, Mickey has a birthday and he gets a new face. He's in his 60s, he's getting a little Botox, getting a little filler. He just wants to look fresh and young. I get it. And now this is the costume that most of us are familiar with and grew up with. This is the Minnie and the Mickey that we remember seeing in the parks as millennials, at least I do. They simplified her face quite a bit, removing all that crazy eyelash action and just giving her 3 bold cartoony eyelashes painted right on and above her eye with a very thin little line of eyeshadow that's not too much, not too trashy. They thinned out her lips a little bit, gave her a little bit of thinner lips, made her tongue a little bit smaller, pulled her hairline back. A lot of little simple changes that ultimately altogether make for a much cleaner face. This is also the era where the characters finally start to really lean into padding. Now we finally have a little bit of hip padding and back padding for these characters to even out the proportions a little bit. When you have those giant ears and a big round head, only having the shoulder width of a performer, it doesn't necessarily look good. So by adding a little bit of padding into special places like, say, the hips, rounds out the character, makes them a little bit more pear-shaped instead of it just looking like a twig little human bobbling with a big bobblehead, you know, and I like that. I like that we kind of leaned into the padding of it all. I love this Minnie design. It's iconic. It's one of my favorites. It feels like we got it right for the first time here. Now, Minnie Mouse sort of snuck into the modern era in 2004 with the Castle show at Walt Disney World. Everyone remember Dream Along with Mickey? I sure do. What a great show. And they upgraded the faces of the characters in that show just after it debuted in the mid-2000s into articulated talking characters. And Minnie Mouse was one of them. She was one of the characters that got articulated.
Did you say be a princess?
And now it didn't necessarily change a lot of the facial features of Minnie, but it did sort of stretch things out a little bit. Let me explain. They had to put a lot of robotics inside these character heads, which expanded the size of things a little bit and changed the perception of certain things. In order to give Minnie blinking eyelids, we now had to sink her eyes back deeper into the costume, which is why they kind of feel a little bit hollow, but they need to be hollow so that there's space for those eyelids to blink over top of them. And her face kind of seems more rubbery and plasticky, and that's because, well, it is. It is a movable rubber plastic that can articulate with the robotics inside versus that hard shell sort of plastic that you see in the Mickey Mouse heads that are not articulated. Initially, these costume heads were all puppeteered by the performers on stage in special paddles they had on their fingers. One hand allowed them to control blinking, one hand allowed them to control talking. I made a whole cool video about this, the secrets of how Disney characters talk, so make sure you head on over there and check it out. Over time, though, the performers stopped puppeteering and everything was pre-programmed. So now they can just focus on the choreography and go out there and smash it and let the Mickey Mouse head just, like, you know, do its thing. When Shanghai Disneyland opened in 2016, we got a surprise debut of a brand new pair of Mickey and Minnies that no one was ready for. No one saw this coming, and a lot of people were kind of upset about the change. Man, just looking at them, it's kind of hard to be like, what did they change? The hairline moved up a little bit, and the eyebrows were more refined, made a little bit thinner, also moved up a little bit, and then the eye shape was played around with a little bit. It was made more oval, and the pupils were placed lower down on the eyes, almost connecting into like the center brow with the nose, so that they were really looking down and forward, having a perfect eye placement for meet and greets. I mean, that was the biggest change about these things. It was just a further refinement into making a tighter meet and greet head, and it worked. It worked. It looks incredible. I don't necessarily know why no one liked these at the beginning. I think maybe it was kind of a mix of Uncanny Valley and FOMO. People were used to a certain kind of Mickey, and this one looked slightly off. And then, of course, it was in Shanghai, and no Americans were really out there. No one was heading out to Shanghai to check out the new park. So it was like, well, we don't have that Mickey. We want it. We're missing out. Plus, also, that Mickey doesn't look like the Mickey I grew up with. # not my Mickey. They even ended up upgrading all the articulated heads in the park to eventually look like this Mickey and Minnie. They got whole new designs, and they pushed them throughout everywhere. So now everywhere you go, this is the Mickey and Minnie that you'll meet, this brand new Shanghai 2016 design. In 2017, an extremely limited playtest ran inside the park of Disneyland, featuring none other than Mickey, Minnie, and Donald as free-roaming, articulated, interactable characters.
Hi! You look quite handsome today.
I love your bow too.
Thank you.
You heard me right. No Mickey Mouse hanging out in a tiny room with a bunch of attendants and cameras and two-way mirrors and all that kind of nonsense. No. These characters had performers inside of them that were individually in control of the entire conversation. Exactly like how you see Kylo Ren, the Stormtroopers, Boba Fett, Mandalorian walking around in the parks today. These characters utilized the same exact technology, and it was truly genius. You could have them tell you stories, tell jokes, interact with each other, and it made you feel like you were in control, but the way that they were scripted, in fact, they were the ones in control. They were the ones leading the conversation and taking you down the path and forcing you down to one singular action, grab a picture, and then leave. It's kind of great, but ultimately they canceled all this stuff. They got rid of it. It was incredibly expensive, took a lot of people to run, a lot of maintenance was involved in this, and so only for a short time did we see the free-roaming wild characters out there interacting with guests, and maybe one day they'll come back as technology gets better and cheaper and lighter, but until then, these are definitely shelved. They're all packed up. It's truly genius. It's truly a genius move, a move that I can't see a single person being upset about having in the parks. Gone. Of course, in 2020, Mickey and Minnie finally got their own ride at Hollywood Studios and then eventually at Disneyland, the Runaway Railway. What a cute attraction. I absolutely love it. And I love the internally projected animatronics that they have of Mickey and Minnie and how they really went out of their way to like do all the special like ear movements to make sure the ears are always in profile. They're very, very clever animatronics that match a beautiful animation style. And I love this new Mickey and Minnie design. I love these shorts. I know a lot of people don't. I know a lot of people are, miserable and on the fence about the shorts, but I love them. I love the wacky style. Give me more of this wackiness. It's truly wild, And it's got, honestly, it would be fun and it would have really knocked my socks off if we would have had a Runaway Railway Mickey and Minnie costume character that we could have met and interacted with, but they didn't really go vintage with that. They didn't lean into that kind of sort of nostalgia path, and so we never really got matching costume characters, but these guys, very, very cool. I like this a lot. Well, there you go. There is the history of Minnie Mouse and all of her different costume evolutions. We started in the vaudeville era with some wild and wacky black and white Mickey and Minnie shorts, and we've evolved into the modern era of bright, colorful Mickey and Minnie animatronics, literally cartoons themselves. It's wild to see how much Minnie Mouse has changed throughout the years, and I love it. I love her. I hope that we see more and more and more Minnie Mouse as the years come by. Special thanks to all of my patrons for supporting me, Disney Dan, on this channel. Thanks for supporting me. Thanks for donating. Thanks for hanging out with me in my Discord, sending me messages, voting on new videos. I love you, patrons. You guys are all the best. And of course, special thanks to HalloweenCostumes.com/DisneyDan. Thanks for supplying me with all these amazing costumes. You guys can get your costumes for 15% off. Just follow my link. You can get it at thedisneydan.com or head directly to the URL. Find all my links at thedisneydan.com. All of my discounts and coupon codes and my social medias and all the things. There you go, guys. This was Dan in a Minnie costume. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching, guys. And as always,